Hey there YouTube, AJ here. And I'm still sick, but I'm feeling better. Got down to pretty much just a lot of sinus pressure now. But we're gonna try to get some work done. I'm working in like smaller chunks to do things, but trying to keep going. Anyway, today what we're gonna try to do is finish mocking up or remocking up our cross member, because our rear radius rods are now too short for our new cross member, because we took out that Model A cross member, which they were previously mounted to, and that Model A cross member is like over 4 inches deep. So I'm like 4 inches too short of reaching the new cross member. I'm going to still try to use these. I'm going to try to modify these to where I can still use the same arms and mounts and then brace them later. Hopefully we can cut these to fit the new one, make it work. Fortunately, I did not throw away or use the ends from my rear radius rods. I still have them. So I should have plenty to add back to them and make them still work. I will be taking this, I think it's 1 inch rod, and we will be sleeving these and putting this in there. So we'll be strengthening this joint as well as, you know, using some of this. So it should be plenty strong. It's unfortunate, but you know, it's metal. It can be welded back together, so we should be okay. And that's stuck. Okay. Oh. And while we're at it, I think I may try to go ahead, and I've got these radius rods off of Model A, and this will be the later Model A with the cast ends. And my plan all along has been to attach this into the center of the differential and run these up straight to the rear radius rods, triangulating them and making a torque arm. I know it'd be easier just to take a piece of tubing and make a straight torque arm. Since I'm not using a torque tube on this car, honestly, I'm going to run a flathead, and I think my 37 radius rods would be plenty strong enough by themselves. But I have seen pictures where people have twisted and broke rear radius rods like that, and I don't know, just feel a little safer. I think I'm going to go ahead and make torque arms, and I'm going to use these to do it. And I know they're not like the strongest thing in the world. I will weld the seam on these, so that will be a solid piece of tubing after it's all done. But I like the idea of using old Ford parts for this, and I think it'll be with 2 of these, 1 on each side of the diff, going to each radius rod to make that triangle. I think this is going to be plenty strong enough, even past what a flathead can produce. So we're going to give that a try, and hopefully the way I'm planning on mounting these will work. So we're going to try to get those mocked up with this little go around as well. Let's go underneath the car and see how we can make this happen. And hopefully I can get a little bit of work done before my sinuses just say enough of this up and down and laying down stuff, because it's pretty painful. So one of the first things we got to do is figure out where these brackets need to be in here. And you can see they're kind of low right now. They're lower than the middle of it. And I'm going to take and cut the base of this down to where these corners are at the point right here. So that'll be like that. And then later on, I will put in angle gussets from the face of this to this to strengthen that all up. But for right now, we need to figure out where this piece needs to be in terms of height. You know, up here, down here, you know what. Obviously this is low right now, but I've got my angle gauge on the pinion back here, and it's almost flat. So that tells me my radius rods need to go up. And if we take them up to where it's about at 3 degrees, which I can't do with just one hand, hang on, because it was at 3 degrees before. So if we take this up to 3 degrees, Then look down here. We want these to be up pretty high, actually. Yeah, it wants to be coming in at about this level. So that tells me I'm going to want to use all of the bottom of this and cut off the top. And the other thing that tells me is, will that get me enough? So let's go ahead and bring this up to that point. And we're at 2.1. So it really needs a little more. I do have another set of these brackets uncut. So maybe I need to go ahead and cut those and use those because they still have the wings on them. Let's see. So if we take this one in here, we're going to cut this one off, and we'll have to angle it a bit. And let's get this back up to our 3 degrees. All right, so that's going to have to be pretty high. So can't cut that off flat either because it's going to be kind of there. Is that really how high it needs to be? Yep. Alright, so we're going to go cut this tab off, and we're going to cut the top off at quite a bit higher than our last one. Alright, we're going to go rough cut these. We'll see what we got. Be right back. Okay, we've got it rough cut, and we've also, oh man, I didn't get it even close. I also brought a marker, so hopefully I can see what I'm marking better. I'm going to start with that. Bring our bar up. We are at 3. So our bottom cut's pretty good. I'm going to leave that there. Grab this angle finder. About there. Wow, I'm going to be cutting a lot of this one off. Okay. Now we need to go and cut this off 90 degrees right here. Okay, so we've cut off the top here. It's still too tall. I need to get my angle finder back on my, and I left my stupid marker out there. And you see this insets further than I want, so I'm going to have to make a piece in here to fill it. I think I might make this a lot shorter. So that's about the height it's going to be right there. It needs to go higher, but we ain't got any higher. It'll go higher when we move it over. I'm going to cut it to where this depth here is the depth of our internal of our cross member. Cut it square. Go in like that. All right. Oh no. Well, I screwed up. Because by cutting it that shallow, I'm hitting with the head of this on the cross member. See, these are now too short. So we're going to go back to these, which is also too short because, oh man, what am I going to do here? No matter what I do, I'm going to have to add to the bottom. Because even if I go straight up and down like that, I'm only at 2 degrees. So I need to cut a lot off the top. And I'm gonna have to add to the bottom to make this work. Okay, so this is what we got now. And it's obviously shorter than I want because I want it to fit all the way from top to bottom, so I'm gonna have to add to the bottom, which is fine. We can do that. It's just a pain. But now that's good. So we're good on our height now. I'm okay with that. And we won't have to add too much. And I will still be adding a brace in here. Potentially, probably on both sides, I'll add an angle brace on both sides just to give it a lot more strength. And yeah, so let's go cut the other side of this to match this and hopefully leave it longer on this side, but we'll see what we got. I don't know if we have enough on it or not. Can't remember. Okay, we got our left and right side cut. Gonna go here like this. The good thing is our pieces that we cut off are long enough that we'll be able to add these to the bottom and fill it in. So that's cool. We'll do that later before we get this done. What we want to do now is figure out how much we need to extend these by. And to do that, first thing we do, we got these ran all the way in, so we don't want that for adjustment. We want these to be like at the halfway point. So got our jam nut here all the way down, and guess where do we want this? Our threads run to here, so we want full thread engagement. So we're going to take that and we're going to go about halfway down between the gap from the end of the bung to the top of the nut. We'll call that about right there. Run our jam nut up against it. Theoretically, it should be the same on both sides, but I'm going to do the other one separately just to make sure. Turn myself around so I can read the tape measure better. First, I got to find my tape measure. And it looks like I do not need to put very much at all. It's only going to be like an inch short. Now the end of this is not perfectly square, so I'm going to have to square that off. But the top is the shorter side. Let's double check. Yeah, like 1 inch. And, so we're going to cut a 1 inch piece off of this. If I can match the right one. Yeah, see, that matches up, so we'll match that. Cut a 1 inch piece, maybe just a smidge more just to make sure, and trim it later. And we'll do the same thing for the other side. And we should be able to weld that back together, and we'll cut a slug to run back in here. Looks like we're only going to need, for our slug, we don't need a huge long piece, so like maybe 3 or 4 inches is all we're really going to need for that. So I'm going to go cut those up. And to be honest, this getting up and down, laying on the floor, my sinuses are hurting pretty bad. So I'm going to go cut those up, not going to film it. And that way I'll be ready to go for the next time. But I'm going to call it quits for the day. Okay, well, it's been a week. I'm healthier now. Turns out I spent, I don't know, good week and a half with the flu. And then after that I had a good week of sinus infection. And on top of that, I had to travel last week. I was in Atlanta for the entire week. So I couldn't get back to work on these radius rod mounts. So let me catch you up where I am. Yesterday I did get a little bit of time to finish prepping all my pieces for welding, but this is what we got. We have our bracket that our tie rod end will mount to, and I've cut the piece to lengthen it the way I need it to be. I've also prepped all my edges for welding, so all that's done as well. So we're ready to weld all this stuff together. Now, I also cut a slug to insert into the radius rod. The length I need to extend my radius rods is there. And then we have our bung itself. So we are going to weld this to the bung, and the ends are prepped and ready to go. Then we will put on our end of our radius rod extension and weld that to the bung. Then this will slide into the radius rod that's on the car and get welded as well. And then we will drill and also do plug welds to make all this strong again. So that'll kind of all look together like this. Kind of hard to see here, but that's the plan. So we just got to start welding all this stuff up together. And because I was traveling, I was sick, I didn't get a lot done. I'm behind on my video recording and editing, so we're just going to go ahead and cut this short here. I'm going to add one more thing. Earlier in the video, I said these mounted to my Model A cross member, and I was going to have to extend it by 4 inches, but as you can see, we're like an inch, inch and a quarter extensions that we're going to be using. So reason being, there's a reason why that happened. I forgot that this side of this old cross member was to the front of the car. So the recessed area of my F1 cross member is opposite now, because the F1 cross member that's in the car the other way, the flat side is towards the front of the car. So if this was previously to the rear of the car, these were welded like, I forget exactly where, but you know, like to this side of the F1, and now they're going to be inside the recessed area of the F1 cross member, and so they only really needed to be extended that much. So that's why I had my numbers off in my head. Again, I blame it on being sick. I just couldn't remember right, and I'll be real honest, my brain wasn't thinking right. I shouldn't even have been working on the car. I was too sick. So healthy now. I do have to travel again this week a little bit. Nothing like before, not a full week out, just a couple days. So hopefully we can start getting back working on the car again. I think in the meantime, off camera, I'm going to go ahead and weld the slugs to the bungs, get that done. Maybe, and as well as get these pieces, the extension pieces, welded on there. And so when I come back, we're ready to do the final fit on this. And then also, hopefully in that video, we will show our Model A torque arms that I'm going to be building. Hopefully we'll have that done as well. So I apologize for getting the video out late today. I apologize for just not getting anything done. You know, you get sick, it happens. We all go through this. So hopefully spring's here, daylight savings again, and hopefully I'll be back on a regular schedule real quick here, and I won't get sick again. Till then, YouTube, later.